Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Friday, August 25th. This is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast, the official podcast of thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, joined as always by CJ, the Hitman Hickman, and Jason Cabrera. What is up, fellas?
Hello.
Hello.
What's going on, guys?
Not much. We have an amazing show for you guys today. Today we are going to be taking a look at our top 9 tips and tricks to win your fantasy drafts. Now, this is not going to be like the last, 6 shows we've done where we went on for an hour and a half to 2 hours going in depth, really long breakdowns of players. We know that, hey, it's Friday. Most people are drafting tomorrow. Statistically, this weekend are the vast majority of leagues. So we are going to be keeping this short and sweet. We know you guys are trying to cram in a ton of information right now. I know you're listening to lots of shows, visiting lots of websites. So this is a lot of good information we're going to try and give to you guys pretty quickly. And, it's kind of a recap on a lot of things that we've been preaching and talking about pretty consistently for the last 5 months or so. So with that, let's go ahead and get through some of the bookkeeping so when we get into the content. Of course, make sure you guys subscribe to the show wherever you are listening, on iTunes or Stitcher or Podcast Addict. If you're watching my face on YouTube, hello, welcome. Of course, you can follow the show on Twitter at the FF Fanatics. Submit questions there, interact with the show, all types of good stuff. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. You can also email your questions to thefantasyfootballfanatics@gmail.com. And of course, the most important thing, if you want to support the show, help us keep these lights on, help us keep doing what we are doing. We want to keep bringing you guys great content year-round. All you have to do is head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Get yourself a lot of bonus perks in return, including bonus, advanced, in-depth content every single week with bonus shows. Once we get into the season, we're going to be pretty locked into the content that we talk about week in and week out. Talking about waiver wire picks up, ad drops, things of that nature. But a lot of good content that's going to be over on Patreon, exclusive to there. So again, that's patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. We look forward to seeing you guys over there. We're going to move past the warm-up and move simply right into our top headlines from around the league, moving into some quarterback news where there are more rumors that are continuing to surface, suggesting that Indianapolis Colts quarterback Andrew Luck will not be ready to play in Week 1. There is officially still no timetable on his recovery, still coming back from shoulder surgery on his throwing arm. So, I know that some of us have been preaching this, others are still holding out hope, and there is still time. But I think at this point you have to start panicking a little bit, even if you're as high on him as, say, I am. What are you guys' thoughts here?
I figured CJ would want to say something about this.
I know, right? I thought CJ was going to jump all over it.
I've already said everything.
Go ahead, CJ.
I've said everything. I'm just letting the reporting do my talking.
Womp womp.
So, there you go.
This is just CJ glowing and basking and him
You know what
believing
this
he was
is?
right.
You know this news? It's glorious.
Okay.
Glorious.
Okay.
Yeah. Jason, how about some analysis here? Let's go to you.
Yeah. I like the fact that they're going to give him, that they're taking their time getting him back. He's their franchise. He's their quarterback. So I like that. I don't think he's going to be out very long. I'm not surprised he's going to miss Week 1. I wouldn't be surprised if he missed Week 2. I would like to see him back in Week 3. I think that's probably what they're aiming at, is to have him come back by Week 3. But everything's up in the air, no timetable. That's a little scary. So yeah, I would definitely think about sliding him a slot or two down my board, just because we don't know, and they don't want to rush him back and have a Blake Bortles incident where he comes back and can't get the ball down the field to his receivers. So they're going to take their time. They're doing the right thing, and they're going to go ahead and bring him in when he is ready.
They don't want to handicap their offense. They don't want to shatter his confidence, get him re-injured, all of that. And I agree with everything you just said. Look, if he's not ready, he's not ready. And I think that This is the smart way to do it. This is your franchise player. Yes, he's in his prime. Yep. Yes, you want to get him in there right now. Yes, he is essential to you winning games. But let's think bigger picture here, long term. It is as much of a sprint as this season truly is, because it's only 16 games. There is also quite a bit of a marathon aspect to it as well. I mean, a couple games at the beginning for a strong presence down the stretch. I get it. So, I have not officially adjusted him in my rankings as of yet. I still have him at 3. But like I said, if he misses 1 to 2 weeks, I will probably bump him down at least 1 or 2 spots, like you were saying. It's just one of those things that we just don't know yet. So it's all speculation, and time will tell. So you have him at 5 right now, Jason. So somewhere around 7. That sounds right to you?
Yeah. I may drop him. Well, I may drop him to 6 or 7. We'll see.
Okay, and CJ, you're still staying put at 10 because you were expecting him not to play anyway, correct?
He's about to get dropped even further.
Oh, okay. So you just hate Andrew Luck. But, again, I'm not expecting this to be long-term, though, because, again, if he was going to be out for 5-6 weeks, they would put him on the PUP. So, it's mixed news, and this could all be for nothing. This could just be, reporting. He might start week 1. It's starting to look
hard-headed.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
It's starting to look like that's not going to be the case, but, I mean, it's possible. We have heard nothing official as of yet. So, with that, let's move on to the next bit of news, where ESPN's Pat McNamon, he reports that Cleveland Browns have renewed their efforts to trade quarterback Brock Osweiler. Apparently, he is officially on the trading block, and this is something we talked about a lot, that they've been giving him all these looks and all this good praise, all this coach speak, and the GM saying all this great stuff, and it's all fluffing him up. Yeah, they're trying to get something for him. They're trying to get a pick in return for a guy that they spent, $18 million on for essentially a second-round pick. What are you guys' thoughts? Is there going to be any market out there for Brock Osweiler, even with what he's done to this point in the preseason, which he's looked okay, but, I mean, I don't think they're going to be getting anything other than a late-round pick, and even then, it's going to be interesting.
It's been really bad. I mean, he had an opportunity of a lifetime this past Monday when they faced the Giants, and he could do nothing with that. And now Kaiser is supposed to be starting their next third. I mean, they're week 3 of their preseason, and that he's been annoying in these like after practice press conferences because he's just like. He's that dude that is at your job that's the ultimate suck-up, and that's basically...
He's been the ultimate yes man.
Oh, my gosh. It's been so annoying. And, I mean, as far
that's
as...
his job.
Yeah, that's his job. But, I mean, dude, just...
He's saying all the right
stop
things.
Talking. Just stop talking. Just stop it.
That's fair.
But I don't really know where else he could go. I mean, the only other place that's, like, really desperate for quarterbacks are the Colts and Jaguars right now. I mean, out of those 2 spots, but I don't see them trading for him because of that contract. That contract is ridiculous, and nobody is going to want to pay all that money.
Ravens could also use the backup, but we wouldn't trade for him either.
You don't want no.
We want no parts of him.
You can't afford him at that rate. I don't think. I mean, his contract is so outrageously ridiculous that. They can talk about putting him on the trade block all they want, but, it's like they're trying to sell an 85 Gremlin, and they're like, we would like to get $500,000 if we could. No one's going to pay that. No one is going to pay that. They're sitting back going, yeah, I'm sure you would like that. So, no, he's going to sit there. They're going to be forced to release him, which is probably what they should just do. They should probably just cut their losses, release the guy, move on. He's not going to figure into this offense at all. I mean, he would be a really, really expensive training camp guy.
I mean, okay, it was $16 million, and yeah, it's no one's going to pay $16 million for Brock Osweiler unless their starter goes down.
Right.
But even then, who wants him as their starter?
Nobody.
Exactly. So yeah, it's They spent $16 million for a second-round pick, knowing what this was. They have a ton of cap space even with him, but odds are they'll probably end up cutting him. So we'll see how it shakes out.
I'm sorry. The funny thing is there are teams that may take a shot at him if it wasn't for that contract. If the contract wasn't the way it is, they restructured his contract and he agreed to take a massive pay cut. There are teams, I think, that would take a shot on him. I mean, there are other teams out there that need a quarterback to put them into some sort of a competition. I mean, look at the Jets. Look at the Niners. There are places that he could go to be a decent backup for somebody, but that contract is really just inhibiting him.
I think the Jets, that's counterproductive. I mean, we already know they're scamming for Sam, so they would not bring him in there.
Well, how better to scam than have Brock Osweiler as a starter?
I'm okay with Josh McCown. I think he's serviceable enough.
Well, I mean, he's
Terrible
got
enough.
a $16 million cap hit this year, $18 million next year, $17 the year after that.
Yep.
But after this year,
Yep.
he has, he has no cap. He's no dead cap. They can cut him and not have to spend a penny. So, odds are, I think he's going to be a Cleveland Brown this year. No one's going to pick that up unless they end up cutting him.
No.
But, like CJ pointed out, Deshaun Kaiser, he is starting week 3 of the preseason. We've been hearing rumors that Cody Kessler is winning the competition there. So, it's still a lot of misdirection, but it looks like Brock Osweiler, they're officially trying to move on. So we'll see how that shakes out. Let's move on to the running back position, where Pittsburgh Steelers running back Le'Veon Bell is going to reportedly report to the team on the 1st of September. That is a week from today. So, guys, finally returning. What are your thoughts? Personally, I'm glad to see he's finally back, but I'm concerned about what kind of shape he's in. This is a guy who's been known to get banged up, and he's coming into camp really, really late, which is a real concern for me. Not enough so that I'm moving him down my boards, but it's definitely something that I have to take into account. And now in a snake draft, you can't get around that, but in an auction draft, I've knocked him down a couple bucks on what I'm willing to spend on him. What are your guys' thoughts?
It's nice of him to show up and do his job. You know what I mean? It's annoying. I'm going to return to the team. How nice for you. They've been in camp. They've been training me to get ready for the year, and you've been messing around. I'm not a fan of this move by him. Does it knock him down my board? No, because we knew that's what he was going to do. He's going to stay where he is on my board. But you're right. You have to think about a little risk mitigation here. This guy has not been training with the team. He hasn't been there with the strength and conditioning coach can deal with him. So he may just hurt himself in the onset of the year.
Yep, but that's why I have to make adjustments now, because most people are drafting this weekend, and he won't be with the team until a week from today. So you gotta do the risk mitigation right there. CJ, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you gotta take your shot, man. I mentioned on the last show that we did. We were doing our Patreon show. Shout out to Patreon. The two guys that move this offense when it comes to Steelers, and it's not just Antonio Brown. Big two key pieces. One, Martavis Bryant, check the numbers, and then the other guy is this dude that's getting ready to return to camp. So I got to assume that he's been working out with some people and his trainers and everything like that to be able to stay in shape. But granted, doing your own personal workout is not being in football shape, getting the punches and getting the hits. So. Look, the talent, the guy, it's just basically where you want to be able to take him. I still think that people are still going to take him high, even though he's coming in late and he might get hurt, off the first tackle. But the guy has built a name for himself where it's like, hey, regardless, this is where you're going to take him. Are you going to spend as much money you want on him in the auction?
Yep, he's officially turned it into a guessing game for us fantasy players. But again, he's fantastic on a per-touch basis, has been for years, so we know what we're getting. It's just a matter of if he stays healthy. Let's move on to Buffalo, where Buffalo Bills running back LaShawn McCoy said that he has been assured that he is not on the Bills trading block. Sure you're not, LaShawn. What are you guys' thoughts here?
Yeah, Sam Bradford felt the same way.
True.
Uh-huh. I kind of hope he is for his sake. Like I said, in the last show we did, he's sitting on a team that looks like they're poking holes in their own boat this year. So I'm really concerned that he's going to go out there and give up another year of his career in his prime to a team that is not looking to actually do anything this year. So I would actually love to see him on the trading block and have him move to a team that is going to compete.
Yeah, absolutely. This organization is a dumpster fire right now. So talent like this, you don't want to get wasted. Because I don't know what they're doing in Buffalo. It's ridiculous. They're disrespecting the quarterback. They're trading away pieces and then bringing in guys that are basically the same player that's around. So it's confusing. I would hope he does get traded, like Jason says. And then goes to another organization that is on the rise and to be able to utilize him and he can be able to shine this year. But right now, Buffalo, it's not looking too hot for him this year.
I always forget that LaShawn McCoy is only 29. I feel like he's been in the league for so long at this point. But so like we're saying, definitely in his prime. I mean, it would be great for him, and it would help the team clear a $8.5, almost $9 million cap hit. So, I mean, we'll see. They can cut him after this year and save quite a bit of money. So I don't know what this team is going to do, but he's definitely their star offensive player. So I mean, if they get rid of LaShawn McCoy, it's officially over. They're definitely scamming for draft picks for next year. So we'll see how it shakes out. I mean, maybe he was informed this, and maybe like we've talked about it for the last couple of weeks, that with all the moves they're making, yes, it looks like they're gearing towards 2018 and beyond, but they still want it to be competitive. So I mean, if they hold on to him, maybe that's the case. Less than ideal for LaShawn McCoy, but I mean, what are we going to do? I mean, he's been productive fantasy-wise there, though they're changing the offense and with obviously a new OC and head coach there. So, well, we'll see. But I mean, I don't know who else is going to be getting a lot of targets, touches, and production in this offense. So, we'll monitor LaShawn McCoy going forward. Let's go to Seattle, where the Seattle Seahawks running back Thomas Rawls is set to miss preseason week 3. Still dealing with that incredibly minor ankle injury that we had heard about. So,
so minor.
Yeah, I called this beforehand that he's always hurt, and I'm sure they're just being cautious. I doubt it's super severe, or we would have heard a lot more. But this is the things that concerned me about Thomas Rawls, which is why I'm not buying into him over Eddie Lacy.
Rest your starters, man.
You gotta rest the starters. Thank you, CJ. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's just frustrating with this guy, and just more credence to the fact that Eddie Lacy is going to be their starter. Because this guy's hurt. He's hurt again, and he's not getting reps. So, yeah.
I like Thomas Rawls. I do. It's just I don't know. This is a whole situation that nobody truly knows what's going on. It's just all ways to look at it. Let's move on to Baltimore. Baltimore Ravens running back Danny Woodhead has been sidelined with a hamstring injury.
Not news. This is not news. A Baltimore player got hurt.
Armageddon in Baltimore.
Typical headline, insert Ravens player here. Yeah, that's basically what this is. So, a hamstring injury, the severity and grade of the injury is not yet revealed. I'm assuming it's minor, else we would have heard more by now. But, soft tissue injuries this close to the season, they tend to linger. So, something to be slightly concerned about for the Danny Woodhead truthers out there. Let's move on to the wide receiver position, where ESPN's Jordan Raanan, I think is how you say it. He reports that New York Giants wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. is possibly going to be missing the first week or two of the regular season, but is, quote, or saying that is, quote, not out of the question. So this is, of course, with all the reports that he is dealing with an ankle injury that he suffered in the preseason last week. What are you guys' thoughts with Odell Beckham Jr. potentially missing a week or two?
I mean, it was tough. If you go back and watch the replay of that hit, that looks really, really severe. So, it's concerning. I know. I wasn't laughing at the injury, but I was laughing at this draft. This league that I'm in that drafted early. I warned them about these things that happen, yet they're so eager to be able to draft. So a guy that picked him in the first round, you're going to miss some games now. Hey.
I've done a couple drafts now, and they're all like casual leagues. But of course, I wouldn't be putting any serious time or money into a league that's drafted pre-week 3 of the preseason. But yeah, you see Odell Beckham Jr., he's going high. I don't think this is going to affect his draft stock, though, because, he's going where he's going to go. I got to also say, I haven't brought this up. It's so annoying drafting when you know that at least half the teams in the room are using your actual rankings. I hate it so much. Just a side note right there. Frustrating. It's very frustrating. So, yeah. But, no, with Odell Beckham Jr. going down, I think this is just another uptick for Brandon Marshall, who, by all accounts, and quote, he will be fine. He got the x-ray of the shoulder. Nothing serious to report. He should be good to go. So, yeah, I'm excited about this. Jason, I know you're of the same thought process. CJ, I'm more intrigued to know what your thoughts are here.
Brandon Marshall going to be fine. Well, now, if Odell Beckham misses some games, he's going to be looked at as the guy being number one. So, hope he can be able to handle the load.
Pretty typical throughout his career. Let's move on to Buffalo yet again, going back to Buffalo, I should say, where head coach Sean McDermott said that wide receiver Jordan Matthews is, quote, making great progress, end quote. All accounts are that his chipped sternum, he should be back from it and ready for week 1. So, I guess we'll see. What are you guys' thoughts here?
Flex.
Well, until we got to see something. I want to see him on the field. Don't tell me how great he's doing off the field. Tell me when he's going to be back.
Yeah, I need to see him out there building a rapport with Tyrod Taylor. So I'm not buying into Jordan Matthews. He's been with the team for too short. He's been injured the whole time he's been there, and he's going to need some serious time to get some reps in. So I know there are people out there saying, oh, he's the only game in town besides a rookie and a pass-catching tight end. He's got to be great, but he's not going to. You see this all the time, people, where a player runs up the field and he cuts one way and the ball's thrown the opposite way. Miscommunications, bad timing, all this stuff that you work on in the preseason, which Jordan Matthews is having no opportunity to truly work on. He's basically playing catch right now. He's not running routes. He's not doing any team drills, 11-on-11s, nothing like that. So it's concerning to me. Here we are going into week 3, and we're 2 weeks away from the start of the regular season. So, yeah, I don't think he'll be higher than a flex option throughout the season, but I'd be drafting him. He'd be, honestly, for me right now, I'd be looking at him as a late-round flyer, if at all. What about you guys?
Flex.
Yes, man.
Flex guy in what round, CJ?
10th. Wow.
So, yeah, double digit. All right. Last bit of wide receiver news. Houston Texans wide receiver Jalen Strong has been suspended for week 1 for violating the league's substance abuse policy. So, that's too bad.
What is this? What is this?
Come on, man.
Smoke, or is this some workout drugs? What's going on here?
Well, there's performance enhancing for workout
stupid.
drugs, so this is probably of the former. I didn't dive into it too much. I just saw this report and put it down because he's, this is a downer for the team because they need these weapons to get the running game and the passing game moving. Whether they're going to be targeting him or not, they need these guys running routes out there, stretching the field. Let's move on to the tight end position, where Washington Redskins tight end Jordan Reed said he is, quote, pretty confident, end quote, that he should be good to go for the start of the season. So there you go. If he starts, he plays for you. Just a matter of how long he's going to be healthy for. I think we all agree with that. Correct?
Sure.
When healthy, a top 3 fantasy tight end for sure. All right, and that's going to do it for us for the news today. So with that, let's move into why you are all here to the topic of the day, which is our top 9 tips and tricks to win your drafts. So I know a lot of this stuff is stuff you may have heard us say before, but we've said it all in passing at various points through mock drafts, mock draft reviews, strategy sessions, the works, but these are all obviously things that are geared specifically towards your draft day, which is what a lot of you are going to be doing tomorrow and Sunday. So is anyone itching to kick this off? Who wants to go first?
Why don't you go first, Miz?
I will happily go first. The first one that I am going to talk about is one that I think that everyone should be doing, and this is something I know the more advanced and savvy players out there do, and this is even easier to do when you're doing like an auction league because you have time to look at these things, but you need to track the other teams in your draft. Now, by this, I mean, of course, if you are into the 3rd, 4th round, you start seeing people grabbing their quarterbacks, their tight ends, and as you keep going through, you can see who has their starting lineups, who's doing bench. You can start picking up on people's strategies pretty early on as long as you're keeping up with what they need, and if you are a believer in the late round quarterback, late round tight end like I am, you can really keep an eye on, like, okay, well, I see that I am in a 12-team league, and 9, 10, 11 of the other teams have already drafted their quarterback, so I know that here we are in round 8, round 9, I don't have to worry about another round of quarterbacks most likely, and especially another run at the quarterback position starting yet. I can probably push the position another couple rounds, keep building my depth, do things like that. So, just analyzing other people's strategies as a whole can really be telling to what they're doing and maybe, who you can snipe off the boards, what's going to be there. Oh, this next guy coming, like say you're at a turn, like you're drafting 10th, and you look at the 2 teams that are drafting 11th and 12th. You can take a look at what they need and make your decision off of that. Like both those teams need running back help. I'm looking at a running back right now and a wide receiver that I like, I'm going to grab that running back because the odds are he's not going to make it back to me, but the wide receiver might. So all of these little things that can really play a big part into your draft day strategy and how to be fluid with your draft that keeps you informed by simply tracking the other teams in your draft. What are you guys' thoughts here? Big believers in this?
I believe it. I mean, especially the quarterback position this year, I think it's as deep as it's ever been. I mean, so I think there's, even if the main guys, like I said, in our top 10, the other guys we talk about, from 11 to 20, I think those are still good guys that you can be able to get decent numbers for. And even with the running back position, I know a lot of people like to jump on that early, but I think there's some hidden gems there. If you can't get those top 5, top 10 guys, you can still be able to plug and play and feel good about your team.
I like how all three of us talking about the late round quarterback here. We all drafted Phillip Rivers late in our early drafts to this point.
Yeah, basically.
Anything you want to add, Jason, before we move on?
I preach caution with this because, it's good to try to track other teams and see what they're doing, but there's always the possibility that you're gonna outthink yourself. You're gonna go, well, this guy's only needs a couple of running backs left, so I'm gonna go ahead and take a running back because I'll get the receiver I want on the turn. If there's a receiver you really want and he's top of your board, don't do that. Don't go and grab a running back you kind of want, that you're okay with, and then miss out on a wide receiver that you really want because maybe they're looking at their board and they go, I need a running back, but that's a really good wide receiver, so I'm going to take him. So you could miss out. So just be real careful with doing that. It's good to keep track. I absolutely keep track of the other teams, but don't get suckered into just thinking that's how everyone's going to do it.
Debbie Downer coming from Jason over there. I mean, we're all talking on such a high note, and he just goes and pokes a You just poke a big hole
I'm not
into the
saying
argument.
it's a bad idea. I'm just preaching caution.
No, of course, but obviously what you're saying, that's drafting 101. If there's a guy that you love and he's right there and you got to have him, you're not using this.
Right.
You're drafting him. This is when you've got a couple guys that you have evenly matched and you want to try and get both, and you're trying to figure out what's the best way to make that happen. Of course, when you're drafting, you're always playing with fire. Whichever guy you don't pick up, you run a risk of never getting that player. So, obviously. But little Debbie Downer over there. Well, okay, how about you, Jason? What's one of yours?
Griffin salty.
What's one of mine?
Yeah, one of yours. I'm throwing it to you.
I forgot the cardinal rule: do not disagree with Griffin.
No. I'm just throwing it to you. Both of you guys have to go.
Just because of that, I'm going to go with one of mine. I'm going to tell you, pick a quarterback you trust. I know that Griffin loves to wait until round 14 and 15, and if there's a 16th round or 17th round, then he'll go out and he'll pick up, Brock Osweiler or somebody, and say, I can make it work, and that's fantastic.
It was
Griffin.
Carson
But
Palmer most recently.
For most other players, you need to pick a quarterback that you are going to trust. I'm not saying pick somebody in the first 3 or 4 or 5 rounds, okay? But you need to keep your eyes on these quarterbacks and make sure that you don't end up with a quarterback that you hate, that you don't trust because he's the best one available. You got to make sure you pick somebody that you trust because this is the guy that's going to get the most number of points on your team throughout the year.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm with that.
I'm not to argue. I'm just talking about point variance.
Yeah,
a lot of quarterbacks they finish roughly around the same point, which is that's the counter argument there. CJ, what are your thoughts?
Roughly around.
All right. So listen, here's my thing. I would say do not get too emotional about a player. Don't be so emotionally invested in a certain player because I'll say it from both sides. I mean, I still think it's absolutely phenomenal what Jason did last year, spending so much money in our auction league for David Johnson, but it worked out for him, and he was a league champion. I got you. A year I did it, with LaShawn McCoy coming off a great year and then going into Chip Kelly's system. That was a lot of money I spent on LaShawn McCoy, and I should have stopped a long time ago, and I could have used that money for some other pieces. And I got burned some other times before about picking some people and just be all in and not listening to that inner guy in me saying, you know what, man, that's probably a little too much, and just going all in and messing up the whole thing. And then my team is in shambles, and I got to try to recover and replace people and try to trade or try to do waiver wire. Just a bunch of stuff. So my suggestion to you is have a nice set board of people that you like And so some people get up off there. Hey, listen, you still got another 10 guys on that list you can be able to get and be able to put together a good team. So that's my advice.
I agree. If you get emotional on a player, odds are you're gonna reach for them or you're gonna overspend on them. So you gotta stay objective. You've got your rankings for a reason. You've got your boards. You've got your everything that you've brought to the draft right there in front of you. Don't throw months of research out the window just because it's a guy you really really like. Now, if that's the case and it's a guy that you've got to have. You know what? It's a game. Go get them. We get it. But, as a whole, if you want to stay, true to your board, that's if you put that much effort into your strategy and your plan, odds are it's probably better that you stick to it for the long term. Jason, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, since that kind of segues into one of mine, I'll just go ahead and do mine next. It's trust your board. Absolutely. What CJ said kind of works perfectly with what I was going to say. You need to trust your board. Get your board together and rate out your players. And there's different ways to do that, and Griffin's going to discuss one way. But there are different ways to do that. But any way that you choose to do it, you need to trust the numbers. And like CJ said, just because you may be a massive fan of a specific player and you really love that player, if he comes up and you're in an auction league and the number goes too high and you're looking at your board and you've got a number there, don't go against yourself. Don't fight yourself because you're going to end up paying for it later. Trust your board. Pick the next name.
Yep. Anything you want to add to that, or do you want me to transition to my next one? CJ?
Go for it, man.
Me?
No, I'm good.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm
good. All right. I'm flying through. No debates. We all agree. I like it. Mine with that thought process, look at us flowing off each other. One way that I trust my board is and you hear me talk about this a lot, I haven't really gone super in-depth to the strategy behind this, so here's a good opportunity. But I am a big believer, especially in snake drafts, for tier-based drafting. Now, don't get me wrong, I go into a draft. I mean, you guys hear me talk all off season. I do my rankings, I do stats, projections. It all works out as how I get my rankings 1 through 70, 80, 90, whatever the case may be, but depending on the position. But within that numerical system, I know how to break up who I need to have at what point based on what tiers I have them in. An obvious example of a tier, like before Ezekiel Elliott got the suspension, everyone knew that the top of the draft was Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, and Ezekiel Elliott. Those were your number one top tier running backs. Then you get into your LaShawn McCoys, who some would debate he is his own tier, but let's say LaShawn McCoy and then the following handful of running backs that are right behind him. So for us, that would be like Marshawn Lynch, Jay Ajayi, Melvin Gordon, players like that. So you're tier 2. Now, when you separate those two tiers, running backs 1, running back 2s, when you're in a live draft, you're not focusing on just that position. You have to draft across the board. So you've got your wide receiver ones also. So for us, that would be our Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham Jr., Julio Jones, Jordy Nelson, Mike Evans. I would say roughly that's our top tier. So once my number one running backs are gone, I'm looking for best value available. So I'm looking at, okay, well, my running back 1s are gone, but my wide receiver 1s are still here. So let me grab a wide receiver 1. And this is also really good when you are in a draft and you're drafting in the middle of the draft and you've got a decent long run between when you pick to when the draft gets back to you. So let's say that you're picking, say, 7th in a 12-team league. So you've got a good weight, and let's say it's the 3rd round. You've got 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, and you don't know which way you want to go because you want to get another running back or another wide receiver. So you've got all these picks before you pick again. But let's say you're in your 3rd tier of running backs and your 3rd tier of wide receivers. You've only got 2 running backs left, but you've got like 6 or 7 wide receivers. Which way you're going to go? You're going to grab that running back because he's in that tier, because there's a better chance that one of those 3rd tier wide receivers are going to make it back to you. So this is a philosophy that you can use to make sure that you're getting the best value. It becomes less about the actual name value because you've done the research on those players. You've grouped these players together that you like within a certain range. So it takes the, name value of this guy out of it. It's all about how good of an, you hear us talk all the time about wide receiver 1s, wide receiver 2s. Well, this is even more in depth than that, like tier 1, tier 2, things like that. I might be getting a little bit too technical, but I mean, are you guys following me pretty good there?
Yeah, I'm hearing you talk, basically.
Oh, okay. So not a big believer in tier-based drafting there, CJ. What about you, Jason?
No, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of different ways to do it. I'm more of a I give a number value to each player, and I go off of that kind of more traditional, I guess, in ranking my players. But that's a good way to do it. Like you said, it gives you more flexibility to be able to look at where you are and figure out who's available on that tier. So I like it.
Yeah, I just think it allows you to be more fluid than like what you see people all the time like debating like I don't know which way to go with this round. Well, I mean, if you go outside the actual numbers of the players and you start looking at your tiering, it adds a lot of clarity. For me, it makes it so easy to be fluid in drafts, just knowing, where I have guys in like a group that, okay, if one of those guys in that group is available and I need from that position, I grab one of those guys and I can keep being fluid throughout my draft. So, it works out great for me. I know a lot of analysts out there that use this strategy and preach nothing but it, and I am a firm believer in it. I don't talk about it as much as I would like to because it's a little bit of a more advanced step, but I mean, it works great for me. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next since you guys already did your two. Mine is, and it was very interesting when I came up to this, and because I just went off of this experience, what I did with this recent draft, and just seeing a lot of people just reach so much, and talking about it afterwards, and it's really annoying to me how people like get in groups and start like, hey, can you just like do a ranking of who is the better drafter and what do you think the team and everything. I was like, that's stupid. You don't even know. I mean, your team could look good now, but injuries hit, bad weeks hit, and then look at that. Your so-called great team that's projected by this dude in this league, now you're last and you right? Suck. You don't win. You don't do anything. So that's funny to me. So what I was seeing I saw a lot of people reaching for players and boasting the crap out of them and thinking that they're winning the draft in 2 rounds. You will not win your draft or build a great team in 2 rounds. All right. I want you to take your board, like we've been saying so many times, follow that and build your team, because you're not going to win the draft or your league just by drafting. You have to, once again, replenish people with waiver wire, like we've been talking about. Trade if possible and if needed, and you think that you can be able to get value of people like that. There's so many other things. A part of this, the draft is a spectacle. It's great and it's good and it's a great foundation. But there's so many other pieces when it comes to fantasy football to build a great team and have great week-to-week things that you have to stay updated on. So please do not think that it's over that as soon as you get to the draft. And please don't think that you're a straight-up boss after 2 rounds and think that you picked 2 good picks.
I love that point, CJ, because
right.
basically everyone thinks that they won the draft. If you don't think you won the draft, then that's pretty bad. But bottom line, somebody's got to come in last place when it's all said and done. So,
right.
Yeah. Sorry, Jason, I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, as a matter of fact, you don't know if you won the draft. You can look at your draft class and go, this is great. But then, because you picked up DeAndre Hopkins at the beginning and suddenly he has another season like he had, so you don't know. It's just like the real draft in the NFL. You don't know who won the draft until 2-3 years later in the NFL. In fantasy, you're not going to know if you won the draft for several weeks, until your players start showing up and being consistent.
I agree.
So yeah, don't sit there and talk about, I won the draft. You can't win the draft on the first day.
I couldn't agree more. Last round, so that we've been through 6 already. CJ just went. Jason, you want to go? Or do you want me to go?
I'll go. Okay,
right.
I'll go. We've talked about this quite a bit, and whenever you hear people talk about 0 RB and 0 wide receiver and all this other stuff, do not lock into one strategy and forsake all others. Okay, don't do it. Let the draft come to you. Pick the best available guy for your team that you like. Don't lock into, I'm taking 3 wide receivers. And don't do that, okay? Because it's going to handcuff you, and you're going to end up with a team that you don't necessarily like, and you're going to end up with a lot of talent at one position and crap at the other positions.
I think that this is especially true in auction leagues, because auction leagues, you need to be so fluid, it's insane. If you stick with one strategy, you're going to be either out of money or walking away with no players that you want when it's all said and done. But for the vast majority of you out there with snake drafts, no, absolutely. We always say this, having a strategy and a philosophy and players you like, that's all great, but you have to be fluid. That's the one constant thing that we are always preaching every single time we talk about your draft season. It makes no sense to lock into a strategy, and then when it doesn't work out that way and you still stick to it, If you and everyone else, we saw this last year, everyone was going 0 RB last year. Well, because of that, all the wide receivers were basically gone in the second, third round. So if you didn't go 0 RB, you didn't get any any wide receivers. But, while everybody's grabbing all these wide receivers, you had amazing opportunity to pick up so many good running backs. And, I'll use that to transition into my point. Draft extra running backs. To me, the running back position is by far the hardest position in fantasy football to stream and have depth for. Because quarterbacks, I know not everybody agrees with this, but the range of variables at quarterback is wide. There was over 40 different quarterbacks who put up a week winning performance, a top 12 performance. And there's only 32 teams in the league. It's streamable. There's 12 teams, 32 quarterbacks. You do the math. Tight ends, pretty much the same situation. Wide receivers, most offenses run 2 to 3 wide receivers all the time, so there's going to be depth at that position. But running backs are hard to fill, especially finding ones that aren't in committees and ones that are productive. So for me, I spend a lot of extra rounds trying to build depth at the running back position, because besides it being very hard to fill those positions, they are the highest injury risks. Statistically, they get hurt more than any of the other positions. They get the ball the most. They get hit the most. It adds up. So these are good point producers, high injury risks. You want that depth. And the fall off of talent at running back is much steeper once you get past like your running back twos. Once you start getting to your flex/waiver wire running backs, the talent pool dries up very quickly. So I always do my best to get as many upside running backs as I can, because it's, to me, like even right now, looking at all my leagues that I've drafted, I'm in a 16-team league right now, and I still feel like there's so many great wide receivers that I could pick up and easily stream matchups or just have on my bench. But running backs, forget about it. The only way that the only exception to this rule, of course, is when a running back does get hurt and then everyone goes out and blows all their waiver priority on the backup. But if you already have them on your team, guess what? You don't have to worry about that. So that's my thought process. What are you guys' thoughts here?
I feel you in certain points. I mean, the quarterback thing, I know that's just your thing that you're just going to beat until, people say, "Oh, mighty Griffin." But hey, look, you make some good points, but I still think that's going to be just depending on the person, and it goes different for everybody else. But I agree with the running back thing, man. You want to get as many good running backs as you can, and I mean you got it. But you wouldn't know who's good or who's in a good situation outside of the draft, the grass minority of everybody else that's been talking about the hype guys. But like when we do these deep dives on these rookies or guys that are in committees and guys that the William boys, Jamal Williams cats. That those are guys that have possible chances to start and stuff like that. You wouldn't know, so you just be lost. Right. Like a couple years ago when I drafted Todd Gurley, he was coming off that injury. Everybody was talking up Melvin Gordon. Still love me some Melvin Gordon, but that year I picked up Todd Gurley late round, and as soon as that boy was healthy, and I put him in there, that boy was working for me, working. So absolutely, yeah, man.
And of course, I want to point out that also the latter is not always the case either. I mean, you look at Devontae Booker last year. Everyone saw C.J. Anderson go down. Devontae Booker had looked very good in flashes. People were going out and spending crazy fab on him, burning waiver priority, and he was horrible. He was so freaking bad. So this is why you want known commodities and as many of them as possible. That's why I'm a big believer in this thought process. I leave the draft with more running backs than I do any other position by a large margin. Jason, you go next.
I mean, what I'll say about that basically is, look what happened to the tight end position last year. They were absolutely horrible. You had 3 or 4 tight ends that got you good weekly numbers, but then from then on, the rest of the league was horrible, awful. And that's always the case with a certain position. There's always a position that's going to be bad.
Right.
So yeah, you want to have as many good options at positions where there's not a lot of players, and running back is absolutely one of them. That's why I say quarterback is also one of them, because there's really, and Griffin can say it all day long, but the bottom line is there's really not that many consistent quarterbacks out there that are going to give you those weeks. You can get lucky and play roulette with it and say, I got a great week out of whoever, someone that you wouldn't normally pick up. That's wonderful for you. You got lucky, but you got to be very, very careful. You can disagree all you like. You know, that's the beauty of
well,
it.
that's why you play the matchups, though. You're not just like throwing a dart against the board there. But okay, continue.
Yeah, but you still are. You still are throwing a dart against the board because those are not good quarterbacks. You can play the matchups, but you're still throwing a dart because they're not good quarterbacks, and you know that, or you would have drafted them higher.
Or I just don't believe in it. But regardless, let's move on. CJ, bring us home. Final point.
My final point after hearing everything we've been talking about this whole off season. This lovely show we've done now that has been absolutely funny to me. I love this show, just sitting back and watching you guys go at it. But after everything, man, please have fun. Have fun this week. I mean, look, it only comes. I mean, with us, a core group of guys that we've known each other for a long time, to be able to come together and draft like this and put everything together, it's really fun. I mean, something to look forward to, each and every year. And if you're not able to do it, but be able to do it in some shape or form, to be able to get in contact with people, I mean, still have fun, man. That's the biggest thing for me. Keep you bored, go in there, read the room, all that stuff. But most importantly, please have fun.
Exactly. You want to have fun. Don't get bent out of shape because you didn't get one guy you wanted. Something that I've been saying for years and will always continue to say. You don't win the league at your draft. So you've got a whole season of trades and off season and waiver wire pickups that you can go through. Your team's not going to look the same after the draft as it will at the end of the season, unless you're Jason. So I mean, it's I'm just kidding, but
it did not look the same.
No, Jason, though you have a pretty
90% of it looked the same.
I was gonna say, like, a lot of websites will say, like, oh, your core group that you drafted, how many of them are still with you? And like a lot of the teams, like my team's usually in like the 40%. Like I do a lot of ad drops, and then CJ, you're usually in like the 60-70% range. Jason's in like the 80-90% range. Usually 90s, so it's always funny to me.
Well, it's not necessarily true if you're talking about our league of record. No, he's right when it comes to my offense. My offense normally looks pretty much the same, but my defense has changed a lot. If you looked at the number of waiver wire additions I did, and
we're talking individual defensive players here, not team defenses. Continue.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about individual defensive players, right?
Right.
I dropped a lot of players last year, and I waiver wired a lot of players last year, and it worked out really, really well because I'm very good at, and not to toot my own horn, but I'm very good at picking out defensive players that look like they're on the rise, they're about to peak, and about to play very well, and playing those matchups, So yeah, you're right. When I draft, I like my players when I draft my players. I don't draft to trade them, unless I absolutely have to.
So what you're telling me is that you like to stream IDP, but you don't like streaming quarterbacks. Got it. All right, so that does it. That's our 9 top.
IDP. When IDP, you're talking about players that score 6, 5, 3 points, per game. Whereas with quarterbacks, they're scoring more points than any other one player. So, yeah, you're right. I have no problem streaming that.
It's so easy to do. I've done it for years. But regardless, let's get out of here. We do a whole streaming section that we do on the Patreon show. So, all right, so those are our 9 top tips and tricks to go through win your draft. To run down them one more time, my 3 were track the other teams in your draft, tier-based drafting, and drafting extra running backs. CJ, what were your 3?
My 3, do not get emotionally attached to one player. And you do not win your draft in 2 rounds. And lastly, have fun.
Jason.
Trust your board. Pick a quarterback that you trust throughout the season. And do not lock into any one strategy. Let the draft come to you.
All right, I like it. So with that, that's going to do it for us today. Please make sure you guys tune in on Tuesday when we will be doing a standard consensus mock draft. We haven't done a mock in about a month and a half. It is, in fact, draft season, so we'll give you guys a chance to see, yet again, our thought process with all the injuries, the suspensions, all of that, how we're going to tackle a standard draft. Remember, for all of those out there in the Listener League, we are voting currently on the format and basically everything going into the draft, so make sure you guys visit the page so you can get your vote in. We're putting polls up as we speak. And remember, support the show. Patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Get yourself these bonus episodes that we keep mentioning all the time. You can find all of our rankings on the website at thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. They are very constantly updated. And make sure you guys subscribe wherever you are. iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, the works. We are here every Tuesday and Friday, not just leading up to and through draft season, but throughout the season itself, trying to help you bring home a championship title. That's what it's all about. That's why we do this. And of course, you can follow the show at the FF Fanatics. Get yourself a lot of these news updates that we talk about on the show as they break throughout the week, so you don't have to wait for the recordings. And if you want to interact with us or submit questions, you can submit them there or individually. I'm at GPalmerFFF. CJ's at CJHickman89. Jason is at Jason Cabrera13. Any parting thoughts before we sign off, guys?
My victims. I'll see you Tuesday.
There you go. Yep.
Guys, good luck. Use the things that we've been saying. Use the shows. Go back and listen to a couple of them. Good luck, man. Have fun.
Yep, and as CJ was pointing out, the Listener League is drafting this coming Tuesday night. All right, we are out of here. Everyone take care. Have a great weekend. We will see you then. Good luck in your drafts. Hopefully, we hear a lot of good draft results, and we have a lot of favorable teams to look over because everyone loves to send us their results and have us give them a ranking, which, we'd love to take a look. All right, everyone, take care. Have a great weekend. Best of luck to you all. Bye. This is what we've been waiting for since January.